Hey there, we're getting ready to go live here at Quilter's Corner, so I'm hoping our friends are starting to join us. Just give it a few minutes. We're just before 12:30, but I got a message from the boss asking if I'm ready to start, so here we go. Maybe I'll show you a few things around the shop while I'm waiting. I can walk really slowly. And let's see, I'm going to turn it around. Hey Angie, good to see you. And let's see what else is going on. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so here's some of the items in the shop. We'll just show you in case you haven't seen. Angie has, and you're the only one here. I was going to show all these beautiful by Annie's projects, but not only has Angie seen them, she made them all. Oh, got someone else online. So we had a By Annie's trunk show early in January, and some of the projects we saw were the Contain Yourself bag or basket, and there's a few sizes, and the Clam Up zippered pouch, and Angie made this little backpack which is so cute. It's a lot of work, so that's not part of our Baker's Dozen program. And she said, you got to be prepared for work. It would take about a year-long monthly class to get it done if we were doing it as a class. This gypsy pillow, though, once we get going with classes, that will be a class again. So I made that one. Our friend Terry made this pillow, which is part of our Baker's Dozen. It'll be open to everybody again once we get classes going. And what else do we have here? Oh, this is a bag Karen made, another By Annie's product. I think this is going to be, this is another project that'll be taught here. So anybody who signed up for our Baker's Dozen programs already in these classes, and then we will add these programs, we'll open them to other people as we get closer to them. Hello, Julie. Hi, Sherry. Yay, we're getting people. We're up to 12. I'll turn this around again. Hey, Tiffany. Tiffany, you're supposed to be driving, so, get off the phone. We're going to do a demo today. I did one last Thursday on the flying geese ruler, and today I'm going to look at the 4 1/2 square triangle ruler. So this is another Creative Grids ruler. Hey, Michelle, glad to see you're joining us. I've done a few Creative Grids demos before, so I've got a lot of parts set up in pieces, so hopefully I won't be doing all the sewing here, but you can see the sewn parts, you can see what has to be cut, and you'll learn how to use these items. This one, let's see, do this. I'm going to turn around again. Here we go. This is the Creative Grids. You can see it there. Half square 4-in-1 triangle ruler by Brenda Henning. It's Creative Grids, so it's got that little QR code on it. And we learned last week that you can just use your camera on your phone. If you scan that QR code, just your camera, it'll show you the link. You touch the link and it'll take you to a YouTube video. It used to be you had to have a QR reader. If you have a QR reader app on your phone, you can take the picture of the code and it'll go right to the video. So the only difference is with just your phone's camera, you need to tap the link to get to the video. Okay, so this is the tool. Oh, Julie's coming to show us again.
Just put the ruler down.
Oh, here we go. Wait, let me get it in the... All right, let's put it up. I can't see that way. There we go. Now we see. All right, so Julie's got her phone here.
I'm going to tap my camera app.
Oh, did you get it?
I'm on my camera app.
Wait, there we go.
And all I've done is focus on the UR code, or the QR code, and at the bottom of my camera I get a link that shows up, and it will take me right to the YouTube video for that particular tool.
Which is really great because, like I said, these tools come with instructions, but to watch somebody demonstrating it helps. And they're probably more professional than I am. So there you go.
But they're not as good as you, Christine. They're just not.
All right. And the other thing with Creative Grids is you can go to their website, which is creativegridsusa.com, and you can print out the instructions in case they happen to part ways from your rulers in your sewing room, which may or may not have happened in mine. All right. So back to the ruler. 4 ways. So the first, the traditional way that people write ruler or pattern instructions is to take 2 squares, right? And you draw a line, and you're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side of that line. So that's one way to use this ruler. You can take this, and I'm just lining the edge of the ruler up. Let me zoom in a little bit. From corner to corner, and I've drawn a line. I like to use either a mechanical pencil or a friction pen. All right, so you draw that. You're going to stitch a 1/4 inch on both sides of that line, okay? And then you'll cut on the line, and that's when you get this over here, okay? The other way, some people, rather than stitching a 1/4 inch from a line, would prefer to sew on a line. Get that there. Okay, so you can also do that by lining up this line here from corner to corner. Okay, you're going to draw on this side, and then there's a slit over here you can draw, and this is where I really like a mechanical pencil because it's nice and sharp, and I can get right next to that ruler. I'm going to draw and draw. And so now I have 2 lines, and instead of trying to sew a 1/4 inch from anything, I'm going to sew directly on those lines. And then I'll still cut it down the middle. I'll get 2 pieces like this. I'm going to press. I just happen to press to the dark side. And then you're going to use this ruler to square it up. Okay, let me move this, show you. So what we've got is a diagonal line. I'm going to line it right along that seam, and I'm going to trim 2 sides. So let's say I was going to cut this to 2.5. I'd trim 2 sides, and then I'd spin it around, line it up, and trim the other 2 sides. The other way you could do this actually is to take, before you press it open, you can also put that line right along the stitch line and trim all 4 sides at one go. The one thing I found when doing this is rather than putting that stitch line or this ruler line right on top of the stitch line, I usually bring it just above it. So that gives a little more space for when you're pressing your seam and you lose a little bit of that fabric in the seam allowance. What I suggest is, if you're going to use this technique, is to try it with one and then measure to see how you're cutting and your eyesight's working with that ruler to make sure you're getting an accurate square. All right, so that's one of the 4 ways to use this ruler. Well, actually 2, right? Because we've drawn the line along the center, and then we've drawn a line on either side of the center. All right, the next way is, I'm going to try not to make you dizzy, is to make it from strips. So if you've ever had a strip of, let's say, 2.5 inch fabric, and you want to make 2.5 inch unfinished squares, so 2 inch finished, you're thinking you don't have quite enough fabric. Because if we were making 2 half square triangles from 2.5 inch half square triangles, right, we'd have to start with 2 3/4 inch squares. But you can actually do it from a strip. So this is a strip set. You can see, here we go. So I've got 2 pieces of fabric that were a strip. And to get, let's see, these were 3.5. So now what I can do is take the ruler, oh, I saw a note from Judy. Hey, Judy, she loves my demos. Thank you so much. So I'm going to start with the ruler here. So I have a 3.5 inch strip, and it even says 3.5 inch strip. Can you see that? there you go, 3.5-inch strip. So that line goes at the bottom of that strip set. And I'll make my first cut. And this hangs off the edge, and that's how we're able to get a 3-inch finish off of this 3.5-inch. And then we'll turn the ruler around and we'll line it up again. So there's my 3.5-inch strip. Now that line's at the top and the little black triangle's hanging off the bottom, and we'll do another cut. And you can work all the way along your strip set. So if you were using your 2.5-inch strips from a jelly roll, you would just get a 2.5-inch or two of them, so maybe a background and one from your jelly roll. Put them face together, right sides together, and you can cut along the strip. And when you sew these from a 2.5-inch strip, you'll get a 2-inch finished half-square triangle. What I have found, so there's no extra trimming at the end. These are finished sizes, so it's not oversized. If I was going to cut a bunch of these, what I do to move them from my cutting spot to my sewing machine is I usually just lay them along a long ruler. Say it's 24-inch ruler, I will just lay them very neatly along my ruler so they don't get messed up between there and my sewing machine. And then I'll just chain piece them through. So you're going to get, here you go, here's the sewn piece, and then you press them open and trim. Oh, actually these are finished size. So there's no trimming, no final trim when you use the 2-strip method. So that's method 2. Method 3, or I guess 4, is making 8 identical half-square triangles at once. And these instructions are in with the ruler of what size square to start with to get the finished half-square triangle size you want. So I'm starting with 2 fabrics here, right sides together, and this time I'm drawing a line corner to corner along both diagonals. Then I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch on each side of both those diagonals. So I've got 2 pieces. I'm making 4 seams, right? 2 on each this side, 2 here. And then we're going to cut it apart. So this time we're going to cut not just along those lines, those diagonals, but also, here we go, the vertical and the horizontal directions. So we've got 8 pieces now. If I need to make a lot of half-square triangles that are identical, this is my preferred method because I've only sewn 4 seams and I'm getting 8 half-square triangles. Once I have this, I'm just going to take each one and press it open. These again are oversized, okay? So I'll take those down here. You can see where I've pressed them open, and then I've trimmed it up to size. And then somewhere I've got, oh, I've also used this ruler when I'm doing 1/4 square triangles. So let me come over here. So what, for a 1/4 square triangle, you start with 2 half-square triangles. So I made this, right, just like we did before. We start with 2 fabrics, and you can either draw the center line and stitch 1/4 inch on each side, or you can draw the 2 lines. This time I am not trimming anything down yet because I'm going to make 1/4 square triangles. And to do that, you layer these together with opposite fabrics facing each other, okay? So right sides together, but here's this and that. So opposite fabrics. And if you press both to, let's say, the dark, right, those seams will nest really nicely. Then you're going to draw a line. I've done that on this one here, along one diagonal, and sew 1/4 inch on either side. Okay, so you can see how when we cut along that diagonal, we're going to get a 1/4 square triangle unit. And that's what I have here. Now to square this one up, I found that the 4-in-1 tool is really handy because these can get a little wonky sometimes. But what I can do is use it this way, right? So say this is supposed to be a 5.5 inch unit. I can put this line that says 5.5 inches over here on that seam line and put the center line along the vertical seam line. Trim 2 sides. And then I'll turn it around and do the other two sides. So it's another way to use this tool. One thing I did want to point out is when you press these, right? I've got a unit. When I press something like this, I actually take that seam allowance here and flip it. So you just, a lot of times I can just open the threads just with the force of my hand there. Sometimes when they're quarter square, you might have to use a seam ripper to release those threads. But this way, I've got all the seams going in a clockwise direction. Sometimes they all go counterclockwise. And you get a nice flat little area right where the seams intersect. So it reduces the bulk in your quilts. So there is, let's see, that's 4 different ways to use this ruler. I think we used the center line. We drew 2 lines off center. We did the 8 triangles in one. We did the strips. And then as a bonus, I just showed you how to square up the quarter square triangles. So what I'd like to do is show you a few quilts. All right, walking slowly. There, that's better if I walk and talk to you so then you really don't get crazy. Here's just, all right, so I have a few quilts in my collection. No kidding. So this morning I went up and grabbed a few that use half and quarter square triangles. So let me show those to you. This first one is just one that, I don't know, I had to make. Sometimes I just need to make things. I think I love this fish border fabric and was just doing a little star and a baby quilt. So I just made a bunch of half square triangles and laid them out, and this would be a perfect tool to do that. So there's some actual squares and the rest are half square triangles. So the center is 4 squares, and just something I whipped up, I guess. Next is, this is called Show Your Row Hourglass. So a few years ago when we were doing the row by row, I came up with a concept to design some quilts that incorporated those rows, because some of them just you want to show off by themselves. And this one is just hourglass units. And I did use, you can see here, like here's one, here's one. I just used the 4-in-1 to trim all those up to size. This is when I designed at a quilt retreat for a quilt I was making for my nephew, and someone said, hey, we need a pattern. So there I went again. This is one of the very first quilts I made. I started quilting in the year 2000. So I saw this real traditional block. It's called Birds in the Air. It's like this one right here. So it's 2 sets of 4 half square triangles and then 2 half square triangles. And it's a very traditional block. But as I made it, I started laying out all these blocks and twisting and turning, and that's when I really got hooked on quilting, because I started to realize how many ways you can change things up just by changing the orientation of blocks or changing the position of the color. So yeah, quilting, I pretty much love it. The nice thing about this quilt is each block, let me focus in just on this one red block. Okay, can you see this one here? So in this one block, you've got 8 matching flying geese units. So this is the perfect kind of quilt to use that 8 identical units made at once. Honestly, I don't think I knew that much back then, so I probably cut out a bunch of little squares. But since then, I've designed a cut-loose press pattern called Jewel Box that is basically the same kind of pattern. It's the same Birds in the Air block, and I did use a more efficient technique. This is just something I threw together from leftovers. So sometimes when you're making flying geese units or snowballs, you've got those corners you cut off, and these ended up being such big corners that I sewed them together. Well, that's another place where this tool comes in handy because you can then, once they're sewn, trim them all down to a uniform size. And then this quilt over here was something I just happened to see on Pinterest one day, where you take a jelly roll and you sew 3 strips together. So you can see, 3 strips, right? And then using that technique I talked about with strips, so it'd be 6.5 inches, you put a 6.5 inch strip of background fabric face to face, and you can start cutting those units one at a time and sewing them, so those be the exact size. So there's a lot of things you can do with the 4-in-1 half square triangle tool. I'm trying to think of what else we need to talk about today. Everybody having fun out there? I hope you're getting a lot sewn. I will tell you, I just got a notice from Amazon that my dog clippers are being sent today. So guess what? I have a little Havanese, and she's so overgrown. You know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow? And I said, and if it goes much longer without hairdressers, you're going to see me with some crazy haircut next week too. So that's what's going on in my world. We are working to get all our fat quarter bundles online. I've been adding more fabrics online. We are trying to turn as much of our products that are in the shop as possible onto online. It's going to take us a little while. Hang with us. If there's something you want but don't see online, just give us a call. There's someone here between 12 and 5. The doors are locked, but feel free to call us and we'll make arrangements and let you know what we have. We've done a lot of sending photos to people. If they're looking for certain fabrics, they don't know what we have, we're happy to send photos and do that and back and forth. And if there's anything special you want, we can still order it. We can still get orders from our distributors. Okay, thank you, Pam. Pam said she loved the demo. I'm so happy you did. Janet says masks. So yes, we are still collecting masks. We have a bin outdoors. There's a lot of groups that are looking for masks. So yes, please, if you're making masks, we're still collecting them. We do have, someone dropped off some round elastic here. It's skinny, but apparently it can still be used. If you need some of that, we're happy to give it to you. I know some people have come from our charity quilt fabrics if they need extra to make masks, so we have that available too. Sorry, I'm just reading notes from Tiffany here. She says, ready, set, sold. Oh yeah, that's tomorrow. So if you were here last week for Ready, Set, Sold, Tiffany and Julie came up with a bunch of things that they were just selling at a great bargain. And one of the biggest hits was 5 for $5. So they picked 5 fabrics and they were selling 5 for $5. And some people thought that was $5 per yard, but it was 5 yards for $5. So you don't want to miss Ready, Set, Sold tomorrow. I'm sure they'll come up with something crazy again. And let's see, someone said, do you have the ruler available in the shop? We should. We should. Oh my goodness, this is really draining my phone. All right. I don't see any more questions. Julie, I'll email you or call you to let you know about that ruler. It should be here though. We sell it regularly. And
Drew.
Oh. Before we go.
Can't miss his cameo.
I know. I'm trying to turn this around.
Sit. Got thread on you, dude.
There we go. Whoop. There's Drew. Hey, buddy. Oh, what a good boy. You know what he's focused on, right? Yeah. All right. So thanks for joining us today. And Tiffany and Julie, well, I think they're both going to be here tomorrow at 12:30. All right. Take care and stay safe. Bye.